guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just appreciate all the love and support that you all have shown me and Joe since the announcement of our pregnancy. Spoiler alert, if you did not watch my last video or if you have not been following me on social media, Joe and I are expecting, and it just feels so surreal to say that. So I just appreciate all the love, the support, all the prayers, everything we've gotten thus far on this journey, on this half of our journey has just been overwhelmingly heartwarming, and we truly appreciate it. So thank you. So today's video, I wanted to do something a little different. I have posted a question on my Insta stories a few weeks ago, just asking people basically to ask me questions relating to infertility, fertility treatment, just anything related to that, because I wanted to do a Q&A style video to answer questions. So that is what we're going to do today. So I have 21 questions here. They're very good questions that I want to answer for you all. And just kind of going back a little bit, we actually have some other upcoming videos about our embryo transfer, the 2-week wait, where we are now. Like, I have some more stuff coming up this week and next week, so I wanted to get this one out the way because I posed the question a few weeks ago and I want to answer the questions. So let's get into this. So it's just Q&A. I'm going to ask the question and then I'm going to answer it for you. All right. So the first question is, do you feel like you have been judged for your decision to go this route? And if so, how have you handled that? So this question is interesting. I have felt like I was judged for deciding to seek fertility treatment. And I've explained this in other videos before, just that thinking in the Christian community that somehow fertility treatment is outside of God's will, or you're taking it upon your own hands and not allowing God to work. So I have, I guess, indirectly experienced that, like me sharing or saying that I was doing fertility treatment and then someone assuming that because I decided to do fertility treatment that I was not seeking God, or that God was not in my decision, which was quite the contrary. But yes, I have experienced that, and the way that I've dealt with it is just by doing these videos and explaining infertility and my journey, and why my journey is different from other people's journeys, and why fertility treatment was legit our only option at conceiving and having our own children. So that's how I've dealt with it, just by spreading more awareness about fertility treatment. So great question, and that's how I've dealt with it. Number 2, do you know anyone with lupus who has successfully gotten pregnant with fertility treatment and had a safe delivery? No, I do not know anyone that has had lupus and gone through fertility treatment. What I would suggest is, if you are looking into fertility doctors, then I would suggest just asking those questions, doing your research, and also seeing if there's anybody else who they may have treated who may have had lupus or other conditions and they had a successful treatment. So I would definitely say do your research and see if you can find a doctor in your area who can answer those questions for you. Great question. Number 3, do you think you will do this again for future pregnancies and more babies to come? So this is interesting because for those of you who have followed our journey, you know that we at Retrieval only retrieved 2 embryos, and we lost one of those embryos, so we only had one, which we transferred. So I don't have any more eggs waiting or any more embryos waiting. Also, I was diagnosed with low ovarian reserve, which means that I am no longer, I don't have many more eggs left. We don't really know what's left, but I don't have a lot left, if that makes sense. So me doing IVF again even after we successfully carry this baby to term and deliver her. I don't know what that's gonna look like. I do know that God showed me a son in a dream twice, so there's a boy coming. I just don't know how, and I have not counted IVF out again. I've always said that I would never do it again, but also said I would never do it in the first place, and here we are. So we'll see. I'm open to whatever it is that the Lord leads me to. If he leads us back down to that IVF road, or down that IVF road again, then he's going to provide the finances and the strength, because it was a long road. But I am open to going through IVF again. During your 10-day or 2-week wait, is there anything that you had to put on pause, coffee, exercise, etc.? So I'm going to do a video kind of talking about my 2-week wait and, how that was. But during that time, I did stop coffee. I actually stopped coffee probably like that week or a few days before transfer. They say that you can drink a certain amount of caffeine per day, but for me, it's just best that I just not have it at all. That'll just to ease my own anxiety. It's just best that I don't have it at all. So I did cut out coffee. I have just been doing my research, certain things to not eat. Luckily, a lot of things that you shouldn't eat, I don't eat. Certain types of fish, and during that 2-week wait, I know that I was not allowed to do like any type of strenuous work, heavy lifting or anything like that, which I was not doing prior to. So that was easy. But yeah, coffee, strenuous work, what else? That was like mainly it, but that was only for like the first 2 days as far as like any type of strenuous work. And yeah, I've just been trying to be mindful in terms of food and all of that, like just constantly doing research, constantly on Google. Is this okay? Is this not okay? Even down to like skin and hair products. I just want the best for our baby, and just making sure that I'm not harming her with anything that I put in my body or on my body. So yes, so number 5, it says, what has been the most challenging part of this process for you? I think the most challenging part was the initial surgery and having my tubes removed. I feel like that was probably the most challenging, because I had already said like I was not going to do IVF. So when both my tubes were removed and I found out that was going to be my only option, that just was hard for me. It was hard to accept that, my body was just not doing what it needed to do, and my tubes were ended up being removed. It was just so hard. That was probably the hardest pill to swallow ever, because it's like, this is a part of my body. This is a natural function that's supposed to, like help produce life, and it's gone. And I would say that was probably the most challenging part of this journey for me. If you could go back and change something about your journey, what would it be? I probably would have acted sooner. But then at the same time, I feel like God's timing is everything. So where we are right now is where we're supposed to be right now. But if anything, I just would have asked more questions, did more research and stuff sooner, like way back when it was suspected that something may be wrong. I just wish I had did that sooner, instead of like being super afraid and like, nope, I'm not going down this road, and then taking like a year and a half off of seeking any type of help. So I probably would have done that. Let's see. Have you had to guide your husband in how to be there for you? So yes and no. I remember when, actually it was last year, it was a year ago at this time, when I was getting ready to start IVF and it got canceled. My cycle was canceled because my FSH levels were super high, and the doctor canceled my cycle. And I remember I was just crying. I was just so upset. I was just in tears. It was very hard to hear that, especially after having come off recovery of that surgery where I had my tubes removed. So that was hard. And I remember my husband, in terms of trying to comfort me, he was saying like, I can't remember exactly what he was saying, but something to the effect like, oh, it's gonna be okay, you know, God's gonna see us through, like, you don't have to cry, like those type of things. And I told him, like, you don't have to say anything to make me feel better, like I just want to cry, you know what I mean? Like, I had to tell him initially, like, if I'm crying, I'm going through this, like, I just want to cry. Like, I know God is able, I know he's gonna get us through this, I know it's gonna be okay. But in that moment, you have so many emotions and so many feelings, like you just want to get those feelings out, you know what I mean? You just want to deal with that. You want to sit in that moment, let me come out of that, and then we can get to, okay, what God says and what's going to happen next. But I just told him, like, you don't always have to have something to say. And I think my husband, you know, a lot of times men, they don't know what to say, and it's like, you know, the easiest thing to say to somebody is, oh, it's going to be okay, or God's got you, or whatever. And while that may be true, and while that may be helpful later on down the line, in that moment, it's not helpful. So I think I just remember having to tell him that. And from then on, he got it. If there was some bad news or something and I cried, he just let me cry. And then he was just silent. And then I was like, I don't, you know, I know we're going to get through this and whatever. But yeah, I think I initially had to tell him, like, you don't always have to have something to say, like, just let me cry. So yeah, so that was the only thing. Other than that, my husband has been amazing on this journey, and I thank God for him. The process leading up to the actual IVF, like tests and all of that, or what was your process? So there was a surgery involved. There was tons of tests, tons of blood work involved. There was, you know, the doctor did suspect that I probably had, you know, a damaged tube or something was going on with the tube. He also suspected possibly endometriosis based on the symptoms I had shared with him. He had already, like, kind of prepped me, like, this is what I could go in there and find, and this is what is possibly going to have to happen. So, like, he prepared me for the absolute worst, which is both tubes being removed. So that's what I had to do, go through that process, have both tubes removed. Like, he literally cleared out all the adhesions from the endometriosis because it had just created so many adhesions, so much scarring that I remember him saying it was a mess in there. So that was, like, probably the biggest process leading up to IVF. He did put me on prenatal vitamins, CoQ10. I remember I was on vitamin D3, and I think those are the main ones. Was I on DHA or DEA? One of those. I was on that as well. He put me on those supplements. And in January, I started doing acupuncture. So those are the things. Acupuncture was not from my doctor. He didn't necessarily recommend that, but other people who've gone through IVF, there was mention of acupuncture in a book that I read. So I researched that and then added that to my process or protocol, if you will. This question is my favorite. How much was the cost of your whole IVF cycle, and did insurance cover? Insurance did not cover. I live in Alabama. Did not cover that. Imagine that. But so yes, I have a breakdown here. I had to go find my receipts, okay, so I can give y'all a breakdown, of the cost of IVF. So for my clinic, IVF for one cycle was $11,895, and that includes the stems process. So that's not including the medication. That's just including, you know, the monitoring, the egg retrieval process, It includes, we got PGS testing and ICSI, and I'll put what ICSI is here somewhere and what the PGS testing is. You guys, I had a video about the PGS testing. So that's what all of that included for one cycle. We initially wanted to do 2 cycles. Like if you do 2 cycles, it would have been like 21,000 or 22,000, something like that. But we decided, because all we could afford was 1 cycle, so we only did 1 cycle and just prayed and said, just claimed that we was gonna have success on the 1 cycle. The meds, the stems meds was, so initially I was quoted $7,000 for the stems medication, and that's all of the injections and stuff that I have to do over that course of the 10 days or 14 days, however many days it was, the trigger shots, all of that good stuff. Initially I was quoted $7,000, but I ended up going with Freedom Pharmacy, and that was $3,577.60. So stay with me. That was the cycle, or IVF 1 cycle, the stems, the meds, okay? Then I had to get some additional meds for some reason, I can't remember. A Lupron injection for $107. Then after all of that, when it's time for transfer, you are on estrogen and progesterone and oil. So estrogen patches and PIO was all together in one order. So that was $653.75. So that was the first batch. And then now that I am pregnant, I was running low on patches. So I just placed the order for some more patches last week and they came. Estrogen refill was $454.15. So it's $454.15. And then I will need some more PIO, and that is $199.60. So that's everything. Do the math, okay? And this is not including co-pays, okay? So every time I go and I have to go into the room to speak to the doctor, whether it's for an ultrasound or whatever, that was a $45 copay. The only time I'm not paying copays if I'm going in just for blood work. So right now, while I'm doing my weekly monitoring blood work, that's also included in my IVF cycle, I'm not having to pay $45. But everything prior to, it's $45 a visit, okay? And then, yes, so no, insurance did not cover any of this, but God, okay? I'm pleased to say that God paid it all. He paid off majority of, all of this has been paid off, okay? So praise God, we don't have no IVF debt, okay? Next, number 10, what is the biggest misconception about Black women in IVF? The biggest misconception, first off, the biggest misconception about Black women is that we're just fertile. We just fertile, we ain't got no issues. Black women don't have no issues. IVF was viewed as a white woman's treatment. It was not deemed as something for Black women because we were seen, this goes way back slavery times where women, Black women were seen as just fertile, okay? So that is the misconception there. Also the misconception just in terms of Black women and our reproductive organs, you know, that we don't have pain or that we can tolerate a lot of pain, that our pain is not severe or it's not that serious. So there's a lot there in terms of, you know, the misconceptions about Black women and just the reproductive organs in general. So yeah, so those are those misconceptions. And I guess as it relates to IVF, it's just that we don't do that. We don't have to do that. It's, again, like I said, it's a white woman's treatment, or only white women get that, when in actuality there are a lot of Black women, women of color, who are now having to go through fertility, some type of fertility treatment. So there's that. Embryo transfer protocols, did you have any? The only embryo transfer protocols was the estrogen patches that I started, I think 2 weeks before transfer. I think it was 2 weeks before transfer. And then PIO shots began 5 days, before transfer. And that was really it. So yes, and I will explain more in my next video as I talk about embryo transfer and all that good stuff. Were pregnancy announcements difficult for you, and how did you handle them? Yes, pregnancy announcements were difficult, especially during the times where I was like so close to embryo transfer and this cycle got canceled, or so close, and then now I have a surgery coming up. So it got especially difficult. It was like the closer I got to transfer, I found that it got more difficult for me. I handle them just by acknowledging that, hey, I'm feeling some type of way. And I would tell God that. I would say, God, like, I've been waiting and you bless this person, with their pregnancy, with their positive pregnancy test. Like, what's up with that? Like, I would just be honest with God. And I felt like doing that more often helped it to sting less, if that makes sense. So I got to a point where, yes, I was always happy, when I would see someone, being blessed with that, that being blessed to get pregnant. I would always be happy for that. But then I stopped feeling so sad for myself the more and more I talked to God about it. When I was feeling jealous, when I was feeling, left out or forgotten about, I just let him know. So that's how I handle that, and that's how it helped me during those difficult times. Favorite songs you listen to during infertility? I'm gonna have to share my playlist, but I created a playlist for my infertility. Actually, let me just pull it up here. I created it's a my fertility playlist. Let me just share some of the songs that are on here. Promise Keeper by Israel Houghton and Travis Green. Reckless Love by Israel Houghton. Patiently Praising by Lowell Pye and Fred Jerkins. All Things Are Working by Fred Hammond. God Is My Refuge by Fred Hammond. Another one by Anthony Brown and Group Therapy. Their latest album was really, really good to me. Let's see. I have so many on here. Most recent album, and it was like, oh my gosh, spoke to me during a time where it was, I think the last time my transfer was canceled was Jonathan Traylor. And let me pull up really quick, Jonathan Traylor. His album is called The Unknown, and this album just had me on my face. Like, this album, yes. So this album was like towards the end when it was like, I'm so close. Yes. So shout out to Jonathan Traylor. So yes. Have you ever had a trial transfer? I have not. Well, I actually take that back. The doctor did one right before embryo transfer. So they did a trial or a mock one where he, just guided the catheter to see where it's supposed to go, made sure it was a clear pathway before he actually inserted the embryo. So I guess that was a trial. That's what they called it. So yeah, that was the only thing. How much is IVF? See answer number 9. 16, what pharmacy did you order your meds? Freedom Pharmacy. They are the truth, because their just their cost of their meds is so much cheaper than other places that I was quoted. Also, their delivery time is super fast. I don't know about any other pharmacies, but theirs was super fast. So this is from somebody that says, I am also in the TTC stage. What did you do to keep your faith and your hope steady? So what I did was, and I shared a video about this, and I can link it, but I just really dug into my Bible, and specifically passages or promises that I felt spoke to me and my situation. So that for me was really big. That's what helped me to keep going. So scriptures that were encouraging and helpful, worship music, and I was just intentional about making that my daily thing, is seeking God, journaling, writing down my thoughts and my feelings. That just became my routine. So that's how I got through, and that's how I kept my faith and kept my hope. And I'm not gonna lie, there were times where I was discouraged or felt like giving up, but the great part, or the great what was good about this time as opposed to other times where I was in seasons of waiting, is I didn't stay in those feelings of discouragement or wanting to give up for long, if that makes sense. Did the shots make you feel crazy? They just made me, I probably would say a little bit. I did feel just kind of hormonal, but truth be told, I'm a hormonal person anyway, just because of, I don't know if it's from endometriosis. I don't know. I always had hormonal issues going on anyway, so I don't know if I noticed much of a difference in my body. I did feel a difference. I just felt bigger. I felt bigger this whole year, more bloated. Yeah, so that made me crazy. Just feeling super big and just not physically, not like myself. I haven't felt like myself physically at all this year, so that's probably what has made me crazy. How long were you trying to conceive before you went to a doctor, and did your husband get checked as well? We were trying to conceive for almost 2 years before we actually went to get help. And my husband did get checked as well. And he got checked twice, actually. So my most recent doctor had him get tested, and he was fine. So it was on me. How did your husband feel after transfer? Super excited. And I'll share, like, again, I said I was going to share about the transfer, but he was very, very excited and talking to my stomach, talking to the baby immediately, like that day. Was it tough to decide on how many embryos to implant? No, it wasn't, because we only had one, so that was pretty easy. So yes, thank you guys for these questions. This was fun to do, and I'll probably do another one of these at another time. But yeah, thanks to everybody who submitted a question. Hopefully that answered your questions. But yeah, like I said, we are going to share an update, like where we are now. I also want to kind of share how the embryo transfer was and the 2-week wait was for me. So that will be probably the next video, and then Joe and I will get together and do just an update, like where we are today currently. So yeah, thank you guys for doing this and participating, and looking forward to continuing to connect with many more women. I've met so many women since I've started sharing our story, and it's just, I just keep saying it's nothing but God. Like, I'm just so thankful to God for using me, for thinking of me, thinking that I'm strong enough to go through this and to turn the pain of infertility into something purposeful and beautiful and freeing for not only myself but for other women. So thank you guys for rocking with me and following along on this journey. Get ready for the second half of this journey. Baby girl, Gilbert, pregnancy life, like, it's about to be lit, okay? I'm about to be ridiculous, so get ready. It's been a long road, and I'm about to enjoy pregnancy life, and I'm about to just be ridiculous, so get ready. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Love y'all. Bye.